Hello, everyone. This is Trisha Wolfrey from Your Empowered Self, and welcome to my podcast, How to Manage Stress. Today, I'm in conversation with Mariette Jansen, who is a fellow author and a therapist, and we're going to be talking about a subject that's very close to her heart and to many people these days, and that is growing up with a narcissist. As a parent, it's very, very challenging, as she will say. So we'll find out more about that. But before we do that, let's see what it is that stresses Mariette out on a day-to-day basis. Hello, Mariette.
Hello, Trisha. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
And what stresses me out on a day-to-day basis? It was so funny because you asked me the question before and I said, nah, I'm pretty cool now. I haven't always been like this, but I've learned to manage my stress source and my stresses in a certain way. And then I thought about it and I thought, you know what? You know what? You know what this is? This
I
is
don't know what it is.
whoa, this.
Oh, yes, I know what this is.
Oh,
Spoke about that
could be
too.
anything. This is my lipstick. And it's so funny. I walk around with lipsticks all the time. You see, I've got two here. I need to have this around me and on my lips in order to feel really good. And if I don't have my lipstick on, or if I'm going out and I don't have a lipstick with me, I'm not myself. It's really funny. And I would hop out of the car, go into a booth and get myself a lipstick.
We talked about that, didn't we? And the way that I understood it, it's almost like giving you like a superpower. It's just like, right, I'm on top of everything now. I can deal with whatever. So it's like a kind of cape of strength, if you like, that helps you deal with stuff. Yeah.
It really is. And, I go dog walking. I've got a lipstick with me. I go to the gym. I've got a lipstick in the pocket of my thing.
I guess to generalize this for people, it's what is it that makes you feel at your best and capable and strong to deal with whatever life gives, what life presents to you. Shall we talk about the subject in hand? So,
no,
you have more to say about lipstick?
No, we've done the lipstick.
We've done the lipstick. We thought we'd be talking about lipstick. Okay, so let's talk about what it was like for you growing up with a narcissist as a parent.
Yeah, I'm from a family with 3 children. So my brother is older. My sister was a few years younger. And my mother was the narcissist, really blueprint of a narcissist. And she changed my dad, molded my dad into being like her and always supporting her. So, it was the narcissistic front that is impossible to get through to. That was for me. But I didn't know this was narcissism. I only knew that I was a horrible person. I did it always wrong. If I spoke if I shouldn't. I did not speak if I should. I had good grades at school, but it was nothing to be happy about because it's your obligation to do it because you've got the brains. There was nothing ever to celebrate about me. And I remember when I was about 6 years old, I said to my parents, I want to have a conversation. And my mother was a twin. She had a twin brother. And I said to my parents, I think I'm in the wrong family. I don't belong here. I think you're not my parents. I think your twin brother must be my parents. And I've landed up here. So what are we going to do about it?
This was at 6.
I remember being really young. And it was laughed about and, what a nonsense sort of thing. Never mentioned again. But I thought about it, and I have children myself now. And if my children would come up and say to me, I'm not happy in this family, and I think I'm adopted, and I think I don't belong here, I would be devastated. And I would, engage in a conversation and see if we can make changes that would make my child feel happier and more at home. In our family, that didn't happen. So I didn't have a sense of belonging. I had a sense of obligation. I walked on eggshells a lot because, oh my goodness, everything needed to be done right for my mother. And if not, it was mayhem. And I wasn't very happy. Yeah, but I had no idea how and what that was about.
So what you're saying is it felt like everything that you did was the wrong thing. And if you didn't do something, it was wrong not to do whatever it was as well. So so I take that to mean that you were so uncomfortable, and I'm guessing that would make you very nervous about functioning in the family at all, because whatever you did would result in, was it verbal attacks, name calling? How did it actually manifest to you?
It's that emotional abuse where language and facial expressions are being used to really make you feel like this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're disgusting. Oh, you're sort of like, oh, that's how I was made to feel regularly, because I did everything wrong.
In their eyes.
I was blamed. My father was sort of like, oh, he didn't have a heart attack, but he was sort of like,
ventilating,
being stressed and sort of dramatizing. And my mother blamed me. It's you who caused that to him.
Mm-hmm. So you had two siblings, and as I understand it, when you're in a narcissistic family, there often is the scapegoat child. So that sounds like, if that's true, that would be you.
Yeah.
And then there is the golden child. Is that true? And sometimes those roles changed. Is that how it felt for you? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I just want to understand.
And there is the third role for a child, which is the invisible child.
Right.
Now, my brother had learning difficulties, and my mother could not show him off to the world as, oh God, look at me, my eldest, my firstborn is whatever it was. So he was the invisible child. I was the scapegoat, but I was also the golden child from time to time. And that's where the confusion comes in, because sometimes my reward would be like, oh my goodness, I'm being accepted, I'm being seen, I'm being cherished, and oh, how lovely this is. My sister was also golden child, especially for my father, interestingly enough. So this was the only person in the family, the only child in the family he sometimes took a stance for, and standing up to my mother and saying, no, 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 for my sister. So that made me feel, not happy, because he couldn't do it for me, but he did it for her. And it's this swapping of roles, which is also very divisive, because my sister and I never had a really close connection, because we couldn't. If we had a close connection, my mother would interfere there, and she could not handle a close connection between us, because then we would be a power front, and it would be more difficult for her to manipulate us. So she manipulated us against each other by golden child and scapegoat, but also by telling stories. Oh, your sister said this about you. Oh, and I'm sure she did that to my sister, telling stories about what I said about her.
Which were based in fact or not fact?
Fantasies,
yeah. So that, gosh, that I'm just trying to imagine what that would feel like to, say, a 6-year-old, and that would be disorientating at best, confusing, destabilizing, and to feel that you can't be close to your siblings because your mother would create division. Must have felt like there wasn't anybody in the family that you could talk.
It's so interesting when you're in the middle of it, and when you're young, you have no idea what's going on.
Of course, yeah.
So being close to a sibling
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that was. I wouldn't know that it existed. I,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how a normal family would operate and how you could have fun, for instance. That's what I'm discovering with my own family.
Yeah.
It is a very healing process for me.
Yeah.
But it's an adventure. It's a new adventure. It's like, it can be just fun to be together as a family. Oh, it's, I see my boys doing things together and think like, God, that's so nice. It's lovely. My sister and I, my brother and I, we never did that. But I didn't miss it as such because I didn't know that it existed.
So that's really interesting. You can't miss what you don't have, but at the same time, we all have a need to be loved, to be accepted, to belong. And so I'm wondering how that was for you, because I think we're all born with that, aren't we? That's how we feel safe in the world, to feel like you belong to something. So to be in a family where you feel no support from parents, well, one prefers a sibling, the other creates division and it sounds like she was very not hypocritical, very critical, or probably hypocritical as well, very critical of you.
Always, yeah.
So it's yeah, that
I survived that.
yeah,
There are basically three things. I think naturally now I notice I've got a very positive outlook on things, always sort of more looking for solutions than looking for problems, more looking for fun than looking for whoa, 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 whoa. And I think I developed that in my
okay.
early days
So
as a way of survival, instead of going for the dark side,
yeah.
just try to make it light. The
So
other
from a place though where you didn't know such things existed, how did you know to uh, change your approach to life so that it was different? Maybe it was something to do with life experience or age, but how was that transition made? Because when you're young, all you have is what's around you, and as you say, this is kind of all I know, and this is how it is. So there was a transition somewhere, maybe a catalyst that helped you to decide things would be different.
No, I don't think so. I think this was natural survival
Yeah.
instinct,
Yeah.
sort of sensing that if I go along the dark side, life will be very dark.
Yeah.
If I go to the light and try to entertain everybody and try to be the funny one and try to be the sort of bring lightness in, that's better for me. But it wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't a transition. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just looking back, I think that is what happened. What also happened to survive is, as I said, when I spoke, I said the wrong thing. It was, speaking and thinking was dangerous because if I had an opinion, that would put me forward and that would make it easy to criticize me and to hurt me. So I stopped thinking. And I stopped feeling because if I was really going to feel, it was too painful.
Yeah.
So I became very flat. And I only discovered later in life how that was. And there was a moment, I think I was about 35. I just broke up with a long-term partner. I think we were 9 years together, something like that. I was driving to work and I was crying my eyes out. And I remember I was so happy with how strong my feelings were. Like because this was a new experience, being so intense with my feelings. Really an aha moment, thinking like, God, yeah,
What's going on?
what's going on? I'm feeling very strongly, and it's a good thing. I mean, I was very sad and I was upset, but
Yeah.
it was, that was a really good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also it sounds like hidden in your childhood, there were moments when you discovered, if I'm funny, I get a really good reaction, so I shall do more of that. So there was a kind of morphing um, into that kind of persona that was a coping mechanism for an otherwise very critical environment. Does that sound like that it fits?
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially when other people were around,
Yes.
because then they would carry the hee hee ha ha, oh, that's funny, oh, that's nice to say it like that. So that would stop my mother more or less of being, you
Yeah.
know, of lashing out with her criticism.
Yeah. So a narcissist, generally speaking, wants to be seen in the most positive light possible, don't they? So their children need to reflect that. So they need to be the best
Yeah.
at everything. And if not, then they're no good and they're rejected. But also, if you're getting good feedback from other people in front of your mother, it would look bad on her to then undermine that, because that wouldn't be acceptable.
Yeah. And in the moment that she would be powerless. She couldn't undermine that.
Yeah.
But it would also make her jealous, because in that moment I would be more the center of attention than she wants to
Yeah.
be. And
Yeah.
if I was funnier than she is,
Yeah.
then that also doesn't work. So there was always at one stage, you know, there was a repercussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that affected how you were with people. It also affected your relationships with your siblings. What other effects did it have on you, Mariette?
I would say total people pleasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do anything for kindness. I had no boundaries. My focus was, I want my mother to see me and to love me.
Yeah.
And that lasted for decades.
Yeah.
And that same principle I applied in relationship with others. In romantic relationships, I dated narcissists. Yeah, because I knew exactly what love looked like. So I could recognize that. So it was fine. And I put up with boyfriends calling me dummy or fatty or putting me down in other ways. I thought it was all very funny. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Mm.
Where now I would say it's totally unacceptable. How disrespectful. Yeah.
So there is a transition point. Well, at what point would you say, Mariette, that you were aware, actually, my mother is a narcissist, and wow, look at me being attracted to narcissists? How did that realization?
When I was in my 50s.
Wow.
Really not that long ago. And it's amazing because I had therapy since I could afford it, from the age of 27.
Yeah.
I've seen several therapists, several coaches, and it was always about, you know, my mother, the power she had over me and what I wanted to change there. And the focus of all these therapists was how to repair the relationship, which was absolutely the wrong thing to do because there was no relationship possible. That's so weird. So no one picked up on the whole narcissism that was the narcissism theme that was going on. Now, thank God, people know much more about it, and it's, you know, you could pick up on much earlier. But I was reading about it, and I was so repairing the relationship. My goodness, I worked at that. Anything and everything. Oh, maybe we could go out for it. Maybe we can talk about this. Maybe we can do something, or writing letters, and, you know, the whole caboodle. And never, ever anything changed. I got a breadcrumb from time to time, like, oh, you know, with hope, like, oh, I think she got it. I think it's going better. I think change, things are developing. But no, with a narcissist, you will never be able to develop a balanced relationship. So that was going on and on and on. And I tried and tried and tried, and I knew something wasn't right. And then, you know, thanks to Google, thanks to the internet, I came across a questionnaire and I ticked the boxes, and I was like, ah, my goodness, this answers my questions. Now I know my mother is the blueprint of a narcissist. Then I started to read more with that knowledge, and everything fell into place.
Mm. And often, well, always maybe, a child of a narcissistic parent will be suffering immense emotional neglect, and that will feed this people-pleasing approach to relationships, which feeds the problem even further. So the self-esteem is very, very fragile and is only based on the feedback from outside. So there's no sense of self, of worthiness that comes from inside. So that's something I know that I work with my clients, is kind of getting that from the inside. And you can't reason with a narcissist, can you? They are right, everybody else is wrong, everybody else is stupid. So you can't reason with them, but you can set boundaries, which are quite hard to keep. Did you ever get to the point where you were able to do that with her?
I had to. Yeah, I had to, because it's one of the things I did at one stage. I lived in the UK, she lives in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And we had a regular phone call, or, you know, what say a regular phone call. I decided at one stage, I thought, what is a good daughter? What does it look like for me? What can I give to her without hurting myself? And I decided a phone call every other week on a Sunday. And I decided not longer than 15 minutes. I also decided the topics we are not going to talk about are A, B, C. And the moment she starts about a topic, I will say, I've said to you, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, but, So, no, I don't want to talk about it. If you continue, I will hang up. And that is what I have done. I have hung up the phone on her, which is unheard of, you know. I would never have dared to do that in the past. But by then I was like, no, I am not talking about the same stuff, or not receiving the same abuse again. I'm happy to talk about the weather, about Wimbledon, about a new handbag she got, about, you know, that sort of things, but nothing any more personal.
Yeah. So I love the way that you know that your approach to that, limiting the time, the frequency, the duration, the subjects, setting those boundaries. How did you know, if that's not too dumb a question, and you may not want to share either, which subjects were definitely not okay to discuss? You don't have to share if you don't feel it appropriate. Or maybe give an example or something.
Oh, well, no, she would, the subject would be, look what we've done for you. Yeah. And I went to uni and I funded my own education, even though my father had a great job as a, you know, a well-paid job as a dentist, but they didn't do that. So the moment that comes up, I'm like, that's so not true. You have to stop that, you know, don't pretend. So that type of subject that I thought, well, we've spoken about it, you know, it's just an absolute fantasy. It's a lie. I'm not accommodating that.
Yeah. So at one point, before you set that boundary, you also called her out on the fallacy of what she was saying, so that it closed the door. Would she let it be closed? But you continue to close it. No, we've gone through that. So you didn't entertain those fantasies with her anymore. It'd been discussed. You were never going to agree.
One of the things of a narcissist, and people who have a narcissist or had a narcissist in their lives will know that they are relentless.
Yes.
Yeah, they will not give up. You just have to, come on, we've done this 20 times. No, they will try to find a way in again. So you can never totally relax. You always have to be on the alert. Like, this topic comes there again. I have to stand my ground.
Yeah. Oh, well done you. I mean, there are lots of ways that they could present, like, oh gosh, what is it when they make you feel like you're going crazy?
Gaslighting,
thank you. Or stonewalling. So gaslighting is where they say that didn't happen when it absolutely definitely did happen. And stonewalling is where they refuse to speak to you or refuse to talk about something that needs to be spoken of. So these are some of the ways that people are manipulated. And I don't know if you experienced those with your mum.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, the stonewalling, the silence was a punishment.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that. And then you feel like, oh my God, and well, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And you say, well, what have I done wrong? And
Yeah.
said, well, if you don't know that, so this is gaslighting. It's if you don't know that, you think, and I kept on thinking, what did I do wrong? So how can I make up for that? How can I apologize for something I don't know what it is? And look, I can't even talk because, you know, she has closed the door. She's thrown me stuff and let me steam on it, but doesn't give the information to make it really work.
Yeah.
It's clever, because, you know, in doing things like that, she owns my mind and my heart. I give so much mental and emotional energy to that event because I want to solve it. And in doing that, my energy is all about her.
Yes.
And they sniff that out. They really sniff it out. If you spend that, you don't have to be next to each other for them to know. And they give you lots and lots of situations and lots of things to preoccupy your mind with and to make you feel really unhappy, all connected with them. Because that's their energy. That's their narcissistic supply.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a really good term, isn't it? The narcissistic supply. So when we kind of give in to them, we supply them with what they need to function at their very worst, which for them is their very best. So it's kind of just not allowing yourself to be that source, which is where you finally got to. But gosh, you know, all those years of wasted energy, and all you want is love and to be accepted, which you would expect from a parent, and that just wasn't available to you. I know that you've written a couple of books about this, haven't you, Mariette? So to help people understand a little bit.
Yeah, and I've written them from the perspective of the victim.
Yes.
First of all, you're a target.
Yeah.
If you then open yourself up for the abuse, you become the victim of the narcissistic abuse. But I've written it from that perspective. There are lots of books written about the narc. This is how they operate. This is what they do. This is but for me, it's more about how do you experience it?
Yeah, and what can you do about it? Because the one that's suffering is the one at the receiving end.
Yeah.
You know, because the narcissist is actually just doing whatever they want to do.
Whatever they want to do. Yeah. So the first book I wrote was about my experiences, and then, you know, going on how would it be to be in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, have a checklist there. And then it's a self-help book. So there's exercises on really get a clear understanding of how you are affected by your narcissist. And then the second book, so after this book came out, it was a roller coaster of attention, because not only had I written that book, but I also had cut cords with my mother. And I had a spread in the Daily Mail about it, because, oh my God, the daughter doesn't see her mother anymore, because you know those stories appeal to people. But it was really I had no choice then. But what it meant was the book was out, this was the story, got a lot of attention, and I attracted lots and lots of clients, all suffering narcissistic abuse, and got to know more about it, even more about it than I knew. And then what I discovered is, like, actually, they're all the same. They're 95% operating the same. They might be male, female, old, young, live in whatever part of the world. I've got a client in Kenya, and from an original tribal family in Kenya. And she said, I read that story about your mother, and all the similarities with my mother. I can't believe
I mean,
it.
they are like templates, aren't they, of behaviors that you can
Total. So based on that,
yeah.
I then I did some Instagram posts and say rule books, rules of a narcissist. This is a rule, and this is how you can respond to it in order to keep yourself safe and sane. And then actually I collected lots of those rules and put them in a book and called it Rule Book of a Narcissist. So if you know, people who live or are very close to narcissists will recognize lots of situations and say, yeah, oh God, that's what they do. So, and then the tip there is, this is what you can do in order to, you know, limit the damage
to yourself.
Yeah.
Set and keep those boundaries. Thank you so much for sharing and being open and honest about this. It's such a difficult subject. You know, you've lived and breathed it for many decades even, and now come to the point where you can help others. That's great. So everyone, I always ask my guests if there's a book that they have read that has been inspiring or helpful in their lives, that perhaps might be helpful to other people too. And you have one in mind, don't you, Mariette?
I do. And you know, it's somewhere in a hard copy, but I also have it in an Audible, which works so well for this book. This is Glennon Doyle.
Yeah.
The title is Untamed. It's a New York bestseller. I mean, it might be 5 years old, 10 years old. I can't even remember. But it's such a book with so many powerful messages, especially for women. And the Untamed is referring to us women being educated to sort of live according to being kind, being nice, doing the right thing, you know, never about being you, step up, get into your power, shout out, do whatever.
Wear that lipstick.
Have that lipstick. Yeah, I love that. But seriously, so I started reading that book and I think, oh man, there are so many beautiful examples, simple real life examples of how you can live your life. And I have been tamed for decades. I'm totally untamed now. And I tell you that freedom and that happiness that comes with it is just indescribable. And it's for everyone. Everyone can do it. Yeah.
I mean, something like that is true for men as well, because, you know, anybody in a controlling relationship of any kind, or, you know, is brought up with very strong values that are not their own values, can feel very constrained in life and limited. But when you kind of say, actually, that's not really me, that's not how I want to be in the world, it's very liberating. It can feel a little scary maybe, because, you know, what will happen? Will people like me? Won't they like me anymore? But I think if everyone was truly true to themselves, rather than meeting expectations or operating from a point of fear, then the world would be simply a better place. There wouldn't be so many egos around. Everybody would just be comfortable with who they are because they're being who they are. And other people would allow people to be who they are because they're comfortable being who they themselves are, if that makes sense.
Totally.
We should just all allow those differences and the richness of differences and celebrate those, rather than become offended at the differences that we all have also. So there's so much that is similar within us, but there's so much which is different. And, you know, I think that's something to celebrate.
Yeah. And this book is, I mean, it's such a gentle introduction in how you can step into your power. Yeah.
Brilliant. Mariette, thank you ever so much. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Oh, go on, please.
Well then.
No, wait till you're finished. There's an important moment.
Such a good feeling.
Anyway, so thank you ever so much for your time today. I do hope everybody here has enjoyed it as much as I have. If you haven't subscribed already, do that. I have lots of different guests talking about different ways of managing stress and understanding stress. So you get to be notified of those. Was that your little dog barking?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's
And do like, comment, and share, because this might land at just the right time for someone else.